Jaguar fans are usually wondering why the Jags aren't in prime time on TV. Well, after today, you may wonder why prime time isn't in Jacksonville. We'll talk about it here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. Quick reminder, we're free to subscribe to everywhere you listen to or hear your podcast. Make sure you tap into that location each and every day. Today's show is sponsored by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We're going to start here on today's show. To all the everydayers, shout out to you. You're going to be shocked with what I say. Here's where we're going. Is Coach Prime in play to be the Jaguars head coach next year? And I'm sure this is going to start a little bit of a firestorm, but that's fine. But it's a legitimate question brought on by something that I heard yesterday. What do the Jags do in the draft? Well, that depends on who they hire, what they do in free agency, and whether or not they still have the first pick, because if the season ended today, they would still have it. We know we don't expect them to win a whole bunch more games, maybe one or two at the most, so there's a chance that they will still be at that spot. We'll discuss that. But right now, the Jags are in line to have the first pick of the draft. They're tied with the worst record in the National Football League, currently at 2-8. And they're with the Giants. Right behind them are Carolina, who won 2 in a row, and then the Titans, who actually played pretty well the other day in one of their games. But the Jags have 2 games left against those Titans. They also play the Raiders, who are hovering around the top 6 or 7. And I looked at it yesterday. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is this. So I'm going to talk about that individually. Let's assume they do have the first round pick. That'll be the third time in the last 5 years that they had the top pick in the first round of the draft. Depending on what they do in free agency, we know what they need, right? First of all, they haven't fired Doug Peterson yet. We know that's going to happen, and we all believe it is. They haven't made a determination or said anything about whether or not they're going to change GMs and whether or not Trent Baalke is going to be back. We hope that that's not the case, but we don't know for certain that it's not going to be that way. Him and Ethan Waugh or who else. We also don't know how they're going to go about when the offseason when it comes to replacing people. We haven't even thought about the fact that they might not replace anybody, which would be an utter shock, right? It'd be more of a shock than anything I've seen in recent memory when it comes to sports. But you never know. You never know what they're going to decide to do. Then whether or not this will be a coach-centric team or a GM-centric team or a combination of both. I know everybody wants this to be Detroit Part 2, but guess what? There's like 10 teams around the league right now that want the Detroit Lions the way that they did things. They want that roadmap to be implemented into their organization, so much as they even want the people who did it from Detroit. And I don't think that that's going to necessarily end up making what happened in Detroit happen here. I think it's a very unique situation and set of circumstances, ones that people criticized at first, rightfully so, including myself. So, but that does have something to do with something that I'll end up alluding to or getting to, and that's Coach Prime. There is now starting to be more of a swell of approach or a groundswell, if you will, to get guys who've formerly played to be head coaches. Now, it ain't nothing new, but it is some sort of new when you find players who were very, very accomplished who bought into wanting to be coaches. And Coach Prime is at the top of that in college. And Dan Campbell, though, people don't realize he came through the ranks. He did it the way it was supposed to be done. But to a lot of people that criticized him getting hired, it seemed like he skipped the line. And he may have. But somebody tapped into the fact that a line needed to be skipped because there was just this status quo way of doing things, right? And Deion sort of did the same thing in college. Sort of, not really, but sort of. He went about it his own way and created a way for him to get jobs based on the revenue that he could bring to schools so he could show people what he can do. And if you think he can't coach, you're crazy. My thing has always been, how can you coach when you've been doing media work or you've been doing this or you've been doing that? So once the show me part of it happened where he is like totally invested in the coaching, you cannot watch the Colorado team and say that he doesn't know what he's doing, because he is into it. So forget about the personality aspect of it. The man does his job. And you got to forget about the personality aspect of Dan Campbell, because that's not the personality for a long time that everybody thought that a head coach should have. But guess what? It works. And I think that change, because this is a copycat league, they're going to find or try to find more guys like that, people that have actually done what they're teaching people how to do, and people who've shown a propensity to really buy in and have people buy in. Influence matters these days. So that's why we're having this discussion, to go along with the fact that the Jags are in line to have the first pick. So that's why the direction that they go in is so important. So that's why I had to lay all of that out for you, right? So I'm sitting there thinking like, okay, with the first pick, the Jags have leverage, because right behind them are quarterback needy teams like Cleveland, the Raiders, the Titans, who I think they probably would never trade someone to, and the Giants. So you're sitting there, and it looks like Shedeur Sanders is the best player, everybody thinks, and I also believe that Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. But the best player at a premium position has shown to be Shedeur Sanders, because of his makeup, because of the calm, cool nature that he goes about it. He's basically, people say, well, him or Cam Ward. Well, he's doing this for the second year in a row on a big stage, whereas Cam Ward is doing it for the first year in a row. And that's a good debate to have, like which one of those guys comes first. But see, the thing is, for the Jaguars, is they don't need a quarterback. So you wonder why I'm talking like this, because I'm thinking that because they are in that position and there are 4 teams that are sitting behind them that need quarterbacks and would do anything for them, that this is a good draft for the Jaguars to say, give me all you got. Everybody except the Titans. Give me all you got, and you can trade up and get the guy that you want. And the Jaguars can still maintain their position in the top 5 or top 6 and end up taking a big-time wide receiver, a big-time corner, the best left tackle in the draft, or the best defensive tackle in the draft. They can still do that. So I'm already looking at the fact that if this holds serve, that the Jaguars have that to say. But not so fast, my friends, as the great Lee Corso would say, because there's some unresolved issues here that bring things into play. Nothing brings into play the Jaguars taking a quarterback. Something does bring into play the Jaguars staying pat and taking Travis Hunter. They need a wide receiver and a quarterback. They get both, and they'd have to be judicious. But something else has to happen before you think about that. Who's willing to take Travis Hunter? Especially when Deion Sanders said something that he said yesterday. I'm going to get into those comments, and then we're going to come back and have this spirited debate about primetime. Maybe being in Jacksonville as opposed to Jaguars being on primetime. We'll talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by FanDuel. Our friends over at FanDuel are ready to help you tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, because they are America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Also, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by PrizePicks. That's right. They are the #1 daily fantasy sports place in America. PrizePicks.com. You download that app and use the code LOCKEDONNFL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. There's a difference now. Listen, Locked On NFL is the code, LOCKEDON NFL, and you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Here's what you do. You look at the player projections, stat projections, and you go more or less. Get them right, get 2 or more right, up to 6, and you can win up to 100 times your money. That's right. It's just that simple. And you're not playing against the 10 million people that play PrizePicks. You're playing against PrizePicks. So all of y'all can win and share, not share, you get your share of the money that you're supposed to. So just make sure you visit PrizePicks and use the code Locked On NFL, and you get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. All right, rolling along here. Locked On Jaguars. Hump day, middle of the week, getting close to Thanksgiving. Y'all better get your diets right. I know you're going to gain some weight during Thanksgiving because everybody loves to eat that comfort food while watching football. A lot of good action coming up, but a lot of things that the Jaguars have to look forward to. They're going to play one of those Thanksgiving teams this weekend in Detroit, and we don't think it's going to go well. And if it doesn't go well, they'll continue to end up being at the top of the draft order, and that's why we're having this discussion today. Any thought to something that Deion Sanders said on the Nightcap show? This is about a month ago. They were like, Travis is going number one. Just to paraphrase it, Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp were talking to Deion, and they were like, Deion was like, because he's coaching college football, he's like, okay, who's the worst team in the league? Who's winless or whatever? And they were like, Jacksonville. And he hesitated, and then he pretended that he had to go have a hard talk with Travis, and he went, oh, Travis. And they laugh because I know what that means. That means who wants to go to Jacksonville, right? That means who Deion came here with his Jackson State team and said something about Jacksonville. Who wants to go to Jacksonville? Whatever. And everybody always makes jokes about Jacksonville. You know who? I could tell you this. I could ask you this question. Who wanted to go to Boulder, Colorado? I'm sure when Deion Sanders started coaching and he figured he'd get a Power 5 job, it wouldn't be in Boulder, Colorado. And he's made Boulder, Colorado hot, right? Jacksonville, I know it's college versus NFL, but Jacksonville is way better than Boulder, Colorado. Deion's a Florida boy. Don't get it twisted. All of the Hollywood stuff and the marketing, and Deion's the type of person that marketing is going to go wherever he goes, all right? That's just the bottom line. Wherever Deion goes right now, Deion could play or coach in El Segundo, and people are going to be there. Tumbleweeds and all. It does not matter. So why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing it up because yesterday, again, he was on a podcast. And forgive me to those whoever's podcast that was on, because I'm not trying to not give you the same credit, but I saw it somewhere, and wherever it is, shout out to him for having the content. That Deion Sanders said that he was asked whether or not he would have any impact on where Keyshawn Johnson asked him. As a matter of fact, it was one of the Fox podcasts. Keyshawn Johnson asked him if he would have any impact on where Shedeur goes. And he goes, yes. He says, I'll be the dad until the cows come home. I'll be dad, but I won't do it publicly the way maybe some other people did. I think he was talking about Keyshawn and his situation. But the most famous one, obviously, is the Mannings. They didn't want Eli to play in San Diego. So he ended up going to New York. So Deion says he'd do the same thing, but he'd do it privately. He wouldn't do it publicly. And basically what that means is he just tell the team, look, man, we don't want to play there, so don't bring us there, right? You have to wonder which owners would succumb to that, which owners would know that. You'd also have to wonder, if you're the Jaguars, you're not taking Shedeur Sanders. But if we were talking about you leveraging that pick to get everything that you can, well, that kind of goes out of the window when they know you're not going to pick him. But then Deion also said he ain't coming there. Now, here's the thing. He says that's not just true for Shedeur. He says it's true for my other son too. And they're talking about Travis. Even though he has another son who's going to play in the league probably too, but he's not talking about him. He's talking about the guys up top. He says his other son, Travis. So if this also proves, this is the second time he said that he would play dad for Travis too. Because remember, he said, Travis, and you can take what you want to take from the first time that he kind of indicated that he'd have to have a hard talk with Travis. But now Deion Sanders has said twice that when it comes to Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, he said it twice about Travis, that he will have a big impact on where he goes and try to set them up And right now, the Jaguars, the Jacksonville side, part of it aside, the Jaguars are not a top tier organization that you want either one of those guys to play for. That's just the bottom line. We talk about the Jaguars every day and the things that they need to do, which means they really, really need to nail this, the GM, coach, the direction. They need to do something that other people in the industry and players, former players and coaches, guys like Deion, who's wearing a lot of hats as a former player, as the dad of two major prospects, and as a college coach that has his own opinions that come from that circle of people. They don't believe the Jaguars as they are constructed, in my opinion, are one of the, I don't believe that when you talk about, based on what they said and reading between the lines, that you have organizations that are good and ones that aren't, and ones that you have to have long discussions and hard conversations with your people about. I think Jacksonville falls in that category, and I think anybody who thinks that that's not true is being naive. Of course they fall into that category. They've been the poster franchise for dysfunction for a long time. And that's why this thing needs to get fixed. What do you do if you're Jacksonville? If you have the number one pick, you take all of that stuff out. You take all of the mentoring out. You take all of the Deion saying what he's going to do. You trade the pick. The obvious thing is to bundle up on picks and trade the pick to somebody. Hopefully not the Titans. Like I said, if you can move back one spot and trade it to New York, knowing that Deion Sanders is happy that his son is going to the Big Apple, then you might be able to get a bounty. If he wants to go to Vegas, who sent him some cleats yesterday, apparently, according to social media, and Vegas is picking 6, you might be able to work that out too, right? So the obvious thing is, if you're picking number 1 and you have Trevor Lawrence and there's a quarterback there that everybody wants, is that you can get a lot in return. Can you get a lot in return, though, if the dude, if his dad and him and his dad say, we don't want to play for them? What are you going to get? Well, the Chargers got a lot. They picked Eli first and then traded him, and then they drafted Phillip Rivers or whatever, but they were able to get a lot of stuff. Or do you say, look, we need a wide receiver and a corner. We need playmakers. We need legitimate talent on this team. Let's just take Travis Hunter. Take Travis Hunter and let them people behind us iron out all of that stuff about who they're going to take. If we can't make a one-on-one swap with the Giants, or we can't make a one-on-one swap with the Raiders, because we ain't swapping with the Titans. That's not going to happen. You're not going to give them a player that's going to eat you up for the next decade. That's just not going to occur. And is the Titans a place where he would want to go? I think with Rand Carthon, with maybe a coach in place, I think there's an opportunity for that he may go there. Or he may say, I want to go to New York, or I want to go to the Raiders, and y'all make it happen. And everybody gets together behind the scenes and figures out a way to make it happen. That sounds like more logical if you ask me. But if the Jaguars say, no, we want Travis, well, you still have to deal with Deion the parent. Does he think this is a good spot for Travis Hunter? Travis is yoked a little bit differently. Travis is about to get married. He's a young kid. He's a really good dude. Of course, he's probably looking for marketing just like everybody else. He's going to maximize everything. But I also think that this is the kind of town that Travis would love, and they would love Travis. There's only like 28, 29 NFL cities, right? Because there's some teams that have multiple teams. If you think about New York and LA, so what, 30 NFL cities? That's not a whole bunch, man. And you know, when you're rich and you're famous, you can be rich and famous anywhere. The thing that changes all of that stuff is winning. Because if you're in a big market and you're losing, then it's not helping you anyway. So the winning part of it is where you can consider this might be a good place for Travis Hunter. And you need another wide receiver. Can you imagine Trevor Lawrence throwing the ball to Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas Jr.? And can you imagine Travis Hunter playing corner on the other side when he has to match up one-on-one against Jamar Chase or one-on-one against Justin Jefferson, or take somebody out of the game and you can roll coverages, and then you can spot play him on offense, but play him on offense when you need a play to be made? Can you imagine that? Is that something that you want? It's not ideal when you think about the NFL, the way the NFL landscape is already gone, but nothing is normal about Travis Hunter. So there's a good question. Like, what do you do when you're put into this situation? Well, one thing to ask is this. Well, we can alleviate. We're not going to take Shedeur, But if we want to alleviate concerns early on about where and who Travis Hunter plays for, is Coach Prime in play to be the coach here in Jacksonville and coach his son, Travis Hunter, if they maintain with the number 1 pick? I would argue that if he goes to the NFL, maybe not. And Stephen A. sitting there talking about him going to Dallas and them taking Shedeur, but they're forgetting about the contract that they just gave Dak. That might make that impossible. Where can you win? Where do you have the resources, the cap space, the free agency? And is there a job where you can have a personnel person be put in line with you in order to bring the primetime show to Jacksonville? And would you want it? Let's talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by GameTime. That's where you get your tickets, man. I don't care if it's the last minute. I don't care if you had to wait till payday. I don't care what happened. Maybe somebody paid you some money that they owed you at the last second, and now you can go see the concert that started 10 minutes ago. They ain't no problem because GameTime takes care of that for you. They take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with their curation process, their last minute tickets, their lowest price guarantee. They will handle business for you. All you got to do is take the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Football, basketball, comedy shows, monster trucks, rodeos, does not matter. Terms apply. Again, create an account and the redeem code. I'll give it to you. LOCKEDON NFL, Locked On NFL for $20 off. Download GameTime today. What time is it? It's game time. All right, rolling along here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. Listen, I've been a big critic of Coach Prime. And my criticism has never been that I didn't think he was good. My criticism was, if you're good, don't worry about people believing or not. Just go ahead and do what it is you're supposed to do. And then they will believe when they see it. My thing is that I've always learned that if somebody's going to be good at something, they have to have an application for it and do it every single day. I used to see Deion on TV all the time. I used to see him commentating. I used to see him preaching, traveling around. I saw him in Jacksonville preaching before. I saw him doing a whole bunch of things that were obviously worthwhile to him, and God bless him for it. But he wasn't on the football field coaching every single day. So my thing is, no matter how blessed you are to do something, if you're not applying it every single day, then that, you're not disqualified. But don't get mad at me, because I believe that you just have to do something every day in order to be good at it, right? So now that he's coached every single day, and now that that's all of that stuff, the proof is in the pudding. He applied himself. He had some lumps. He's probably not as good at that. He's better at it now. And he probably wasn't as good at it 4 years ago as he is now. And I think he'll be the first person to admit that. Well, maybe he won't, but we can see it. We can see it. He's grown. There have been things that he's learned. There are rules that he's had to navigate and those things. I just always want to make sure we send a message to young people that just because your mind tells you can do something, and you probably can, but it takes you to have to go out and actually exercise it and do it. I want to lose 20 pounds. I can't do it until I go to the gym and start eating right and be consistent. So it's not necessarily about want to. It's about the application part of it. And I think that him and his kids and all of the family and everybody's applied that wonderfully, right? So the thing is you got to think with Jacksonville. And I know that there are better destinations for him and what everybody thinks the primetime brand is. Dallas. That might be too much of everything. They might not need this. They might just need somebody who just focuses on football and doesn't bring the extra attention. But there are a lot of other places he can go. The Raiders are obviously going to be a place that's going to have a coaching vacancy open, and they have shown that they'll hire a former coach in a heartbeat. If they get the top pick, is that a destination place? He's still recruiting his butt off for Colorado, though. I heard they're going to flip a 5-star quarterback and flip him in their favor. So maybe what he wants to do is just coach kids in college. But since he's going to exercise his fatherly and mentor role as he should and help determine where both of those young high draft picks will go with Shedeur and with Travis Hunter, then you have to ask yourself, will he talk against you unless he's the coach or somebody he trusts and believes in is the coach? This can't just be about a city and geography, because if that was the case, he would have never gone to Colorado and taken those kids to Boulder. This has to be about structure. This has to be about the future. This has to be about putting those guys in the best situation possible. And sometimes people like Deion think that the best situation requires the best qualified person, and they think they might be the best qualified person. So I'm thinking it's a conversation worth having if you're still going to be the number one pick and you want one of them to come here and play and you want them to be happy. The bigger conversation is here. Whether it's him or whoever, you need to do something and get this right. So even if he's not in place, he can look and say, oh, they know what they're doing. They got the right guy over there. Yeah, this is where you want to be. This is where you want to plant your flag. If you just think about if a great player comes here, the way that we all felt about Trevor, if a great player comes here and they are a part of turning this thing around and winning, it's just like Tom Brady in Tampa. It's just like any other program. It's just like Tom Brady in New England. Y'all don't remember New England with the little man on the helmet. I do. Nobody liked New England growing up. Nobody. I'm talking about when they had Andre Tippett and Darryl Stingley and all of those. Nobody liked New England. Sam the Man Cunningham and Steve Grogan. And all of a sudden, New England became the place where everybody went and learned. And Shedeur is even being mentored by Tom Brady. So don't tell me what a place, a geography, a place means if you don't consider the people that can actually change it and make it into something. And then all of a sudden it becomes a really, really big deal. It's happened. It's happened in San Antonio in basketball. Remember that? Yeah. There are some places that actually have built tradition that were not traditionally places that people thought of as being the place to be. And it's happened. It really, really has happened. Golden State didn't win nothing in basketball forever. All of a sudden, they don't even play in Oakland anymore. They play in San Francisco somewhere. But they became this dynasty and this place and this destination sort of spot. And they weren't that either for a long time. So anything is possible when it comes to this. I know Jaguar fans will say, Coach Prime ain't coming to no Jacksonville. Yeah, but maybe if they have the number one pick, he might not want Travis Hunter coming here either, unless they do certain things. And those things are change. Become an organization that's a destination because of the culture, because of the building, because of the way that they treat people. Now, I know it seems like a contradiction because the Raiders isn't any of that. The Raiders is all brand new building, Las Vegas, glitz and glamour. That's what it is, because they ain't won crap. And they done moved in my lifetime. They moved 4 times. They left Oakland, went to LA, left LA, went back to Oakland, and now they left Oakland and they've gone to. So they've had 4 homes, in my adult football life. So they probably sued the league more than anybody. They are the worst. So when you tell me, hey man, that don't mean anything. Well, some of these things all do mean something. And Antonio Pierce, I don't know if they're going to keep him as coach, but Antonio Pierce is a guy that I know Deion Sanders most likely approves of. Former player, does it the right way, was on the staff with Herman Edwards, who's a real good friend of Deion Sanders from what I understand. So there's a lot to think about and a lot to really go over. But the bottom line is the Jaguars just need to put themselves in a position to be a team that people talk about as a destination and not talk about as a place that you need to avoid. And we're a long ways away from that. And I think that's another reason Shad Khan needs to look into making sure that he cleans house and he puts people in place that folks want to be around. You can be in place with me on Locked On NFL and Tyler Rowland. It's a double shot every single day. 2 shows on the Locked On NFL show. You can find them both wherever you get podcasts and our Locked On NFL YouTube page as well. Tyler Rowland will bring it to you early in the morning. And I'll give it to you in the afternoon, man, at the barbershop. So make sure you tap in wherever you get your podcast. All right, man, you guys take care. Have fun with this subject. We'll be back with the crossover edition of the show tomorrow. Until then, you guys take care of each other, and I'll do the same.